We're going. What's up, Connor?
What's up, Sam?
Hey, I'm starting the show this week. Hey, we got another episode of Definitely the Experts. We're back for the 46th time in our show's history. We got a good one for you today. Man, what the hell happened on Thursday night? Myles Garrett, he tried to beat Mason Rudolph with a helmet. Well, he didn't try. He did.
He not allegedly. It's captured very definitively that he
multiple angles, high definition, national TV.
Yeah, it's certainly not even in the realm of maybe. Yeah, it was pretty insane. I didn't actually watch the game, so I think I told you about this. I got home. I actually went out for sushi with Isabel's parents that evening. Yeah, it was great. I had one beer, and I got home and immediately fell asleep. It was wild.
How old are you, 40?
I know. I was so tired. And so I passed out at like 10 o'clock, and I didn't check my fantasy lineup. I didn't check anything. So I was like, I didn't even remember there was a game. And then I woke up, and usually the first thing I do when my alarm goes off is I try to get my body going. And so I open up Reddit to like read an article or something. And first thing when I opened up Reddit, it was the very first thread, and it had like 15,000 upvotes already, and it was Myles Garrett beats Mason Rudolph with his helmet. And I'm like, well, things certainly got out of hand last night, didn't they? And so I opened it up, watched the video, of course, and I was like, well, that was wild. And then I played it back again, and I was like, wait a minute. There's 8 seconds left in the game, and the Browns are up 2 scores, and this happened? Like, I was like, you know what, this is wild, but I don't know, maybe they were just frustrated, but it was like, looking back on it, it was like, why? Like, y'all were going to win. Like, so...
The game's already over.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot to unpack, obviously, from it, and now that the suspension has been, announced that he's not playing the rest of the season and postseason at the minimum, and the league's pretty much throwing the entire book and a half at this. I mean, I agree with it. I don't think that they're being too stringent. I watched Pat McAfee talk about it, and I don't watch a lot of his recap videos or whatever, but I thought this one was good, and it kind of nailed the general sentiment about it, that this is an act that it was worldwide, that the headlines hit, they were all over, like NPR and all these other news sources that obviously don't cover sports extremely frequently, and it's one of these events that people just will look at and be like, yeah, this is why football is bad and why it's dominated by a bunch of meatheads, and it's the concussions and players slamming each other with overhead helmet strikes. And to have that kind of incident happen and be so totally visible to the rest of the world, including people that aren't totally familiar with football or football culture, I mean, it's a pretty terrible look for everybody playing football, because now all of a sudden all these other players are associated with this pretty violent act.
Yeah, it's every broadcast when something like this happens, you get the color guy, this is not good for our game, which, just as on a side tangent, that's my... I don't know if I don't like it. It's just one thing that kind of sticks out to me is when the broadcaster will say, our game. He's taking ownership of the game. I don't know if it's bad. It's just kind of an interesting quirk that sticks out to me. Anyways, but yeah, it's not good for the game. Obviously, the people outside of it are going to look at it and say, yeah, football's dumb, like you said. But man, I never thought of Myles Garrett. I mean, I don't know too much about him. I know that he came from Texas A&M, and I thought everything from when he was in college watching him play, and then even his stuff since he's been in the league, like just listening to him in interviews, he's always come across as a very well-spoken, pretty somewhat an intelligent guy. That's always the impression I've got, and I wouldn't have expected him to kind of lose his composure and do that. I guess in the same breath, Ndamukong Suh always was a guy that in interviews was very well spoken as well. So I don't know. Then there's this thing in the aftermath of all this. There was I don't know how many fines he's been given this year or something, but there's been a couple different instances this year already where he's been fined for unnecessary roughness and whatever. Obviously nothing to the extent or as egregious as this thing, but I don't know. I guess Myles Garrett's a dirty player now. He's going to have that for the rest of his career.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's totally not something that I even thought about until right now, is that he's going to have that label for the rest of his career, which is an interesting thing to think about when we think about the players who have kind of had the black marks on their career. Vontaze Burfict, Ndamukong Suh, like you mentioned.
Richie Incognito.
Pac-Man Jones to a lesser extent. Trying to think of other people. James Harrison was a guy that got fined a lot.
Yeah.
So I mean, in the same sort of group as some of these other guys, regardless of what happens for the rest of his career, I think that, officials will certainly be looking out for him, I would imagine, given his reputation this year. Because like you said, it wasn't his first incident this year that he was fined for unnecessary roughness. And a lot of people pointed to that when talking about this particular incident, because this year he apparently had some problems roughing some people up. It's funny you brought up Richie Incognito, because that was on the Pat McAfee thing, actually, because he had an incident where he nearly took a helmet and swung it at somebody and then regained his composure and didn't. Like, he kind of lifted it up and then went, I don't think I should do this.
Hold up. Pump fake.
Right, exactly. It was like this guy that has a reputation for being just a jar of loose bolts. And that guy, he had the wherewithal to say, no, this is too far. And, when you make that comparison, it's kind of like, I don't know what it takes to get somebody to swing a helmet as a bludgeon at somebody's head.
And we were texting about this a little bit Friday morning, and when this news first broke, I guess I first saw the news. I woke up, kind of did the same thing. I saw it on Twitter, but the first thing I saw was a tweet from Deion Sanders just being like, "Yeah, Marquise Pouncey probably shouldn't be suspended. I mean, you can fine him, but it was kind of warranted." Was basically the gist of his argument, which I don't know, whatever. But so I see that, I'm thinking, oh, Marquise Pouncey, what did he do? And it's like, no, that's a reaction to the real thing. And then when I finally saw the actual clip, I was ready to go. I was fully awake and ready to have a Friday. And we were talking about this, where I was going with this. Man, Myles Garrett's so lucky that he didn't actually injure or concuss or do anything more damaging to Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, you're right. If he would have given him a concussion, I think that he'd be looking at even more time. I think that the legal options were very briefly entertained and on the table, but if he would have done anything severe, I think that that'd have been interesting just to see. It would have been terrible, but I think it would have been interesting to see a first overall draft pick suspended indefinitely and in legal trouble because of a football incident like that. Because I think that with Mason Rudolph's the previous he doesn't really have a previous history, but from that Ravens game where he got his block knocked off by Earl Thomas, took a shot right to the jaw and knocked him unconscious. It's not great to have a big old edge defender swinging a helmet at you. Probably not good for the brains to sustain another concussion that short of a time span after the other. So yeah, I mean, you're right. He's super lucky that nothing serious happened. And we'll see what kind of punishments doled out, because I mean, I don't know if the Browns make the playoffs this year. Like that
to me is the funniest thing. Is the rest of the season and postseason, like, oh, you just got to throw that in there. Like, they're not making the postseason. That's just being mean to the Browns fans to just. Oh, by the way, don't get too excited here.
Yeah, well, because I don't think they're in a great position to make the playoffs.
No.
I'm not even sure what's going on in their division right now.
Well, the Ravens are leading the division, and then Pittsburgh's number 2. But so
yeah, not great.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing, the one impressive thing about about all this though is, like, yeah, he swung that helmet and connected right on his dome, while getting blocked back by whichever lineman it was. But so props to Myles Garrett for being athletic enough to land that, despite being shoved back pretty formidably.
Yeah. By David DeCastro and Marquise Pouncey were both there.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 linemen, shoving you back and still managed to make contact. Yikes. I don't know.
Marquise Pouncey, when he was going at him and laying down the hammer and giving the kicks and all that on the John Boy breakdown, he threw some punches, he threw some kicks, and like none of them landed.
No.
Which is like, good, bad, I don't know. A for effort. But get your ass out of here. And for 3 games.
Yeah.
Can't be doing that.
No. And, man, those Pouncey brothers, they're just like something about them just gives me the heebie-jeebies because of their association with Aaron Hernandez. Like, just it.
I really like the PMT take on that, where it's like, man, the Pouncey brothers are ride or die for life. If you're like, I think it was like Aaron Hernandez is in jail and like had been pretty much convicted and everything, and the truth had all come out about that, and they're still walking around with free Aaron Hernandez apparel, which yikes. No.
Yeah, man.
Nope.
Yeah, they were all close buddies in high school, and it was really weird. So in Florida, I got one of my tattoos there from a guy who gave Marquise and Mike Pouncey tattoos in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, I remember you telling me this a while back. Forgot about that.
Yeah, and it was kind of weird. He kind of elaborated a little bit on these guys, because they'd ride up with Aaron Hernandez in tow, and I think it was the guy, because he was talking about how police officers came by his tattoo shop and asked him questions, because he had been there, and it was just kind of odd how their demeanor was. Like, he was like, yeah, man, these 2 guys were like pretty chill, but Aaron Hernandez was a goddamn psychopath. Like, the way he interacted with people was just like not a normal way. Not like how you interact with people. Like, hey man, what's up? And you just have this glazed look over his face,
looking like you just killed a man.
Yeah, kinda. It's like, but anyway, moving away from that. It's funny that
there's a joke. I think I probably made this to you when you told me the story originally. But did you ask him if he had any I don't know, national championship rings that they or other memorabilia that they traded for the tattoos?
No, I didn't ask him.
Oh, okay.
It'd be pretty funny though.
That's not the police asking that question. That's the NCAA coming around asking those.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Compliance. It's interesting that like they'd ask questions about like which tattoos they gave and like if they meant anything. Like, it's just kind of morbid to think about that they would like tattoo something to signify I killed a man. I did this. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's not or outside the realm of possibility for some of these fuckers to tattoo something on their body to represent whatever
mistakes I've made.
Yeah, or fear me because I kill people.
Oh,
like the teardrop tattoo thing. You know about that?
No.
The teardrop tattoo is supposed to signify all the people you've killed.
For who? Or
it was like a gang thing. I don't know if it was specific to a certain gang.
But it's not one specific person. It's a more well-known thing to do in those circles.
Yeah. But anyway,
I mean, this is definitely the experts, but I have to admit, hand up, I'm not an expert on gang tattoos or gang activities.
Me either, but yeah.
So if anybody,
I think that's one of the more normie ones.
Now,
putting that out there.
Now the Bloods and the Crips, one of them is blue and the other one's red, right? For their colors.
Right. Yeah, one of them doesn't use what is it? One of them doesn't use B's. Is that what it is? Or C's? I think it's C. One of them doesn't use the letters of the.
What do you mean they don't use letters?
They don't spell. They don't. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, they'll do the thing that Ohio State and Michigan do, the week of that game, where they just, or I don't know if it's. I think it's Ohio State. They take all the M's and they X them out on campus.
Yeah, I think it's.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it is. The Crips, they replaced the letter B. The letters...
That doesn't have anything to do with that meme where you take the red block B and put it in places where the B doesn't go.
No.
That's not related, is it?
That's not the same thing, no.
Okay.
No. Yeah, no, that's not it. I think, yeah. But anyway,
any gang members out there, come on the podcast. We want to learn.
Yeah, we'd like to figure out what exactly is going on here. Maybe get a little historical background on using the letter B or C or whatever. Get a little letter lesson in here.
Gang members or English entomologists.
Yeah, either or. What I wanted to say, though, in reference to this whole suspension thing is I think it's hilarious that they play the Steelers again in 2 weeks.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was...
That's probably the best
game's
part
gonna be
about
awesome.
This whole thing.
They should, they should flex that to make it a national game or just put it on Thursday again.
Honestly, yeah, make it prime time.
Well, actually, no, they'd have to make it a pay-per-view, I think.
Oh, man.
Put some steel chairs out there, make it a cage match. Just really ham it up.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it all around the game. So apart from Myles Garrett, the whole game was super chippy, and I mean Juju Smith-Schuster got knocked out, and I forgot which linebacker it was. I think it was a linebacker. Somebody, whoever it was on the Browns, posted a tweet with something can't wait for the next one, and it was a picture of him walking away from Juju Smith-Schuster, his unconscious body laying on the ground, and it was man, y'all can't post that.
Kind of tone deaf.
You can't fucking do that.
Roger's not gonna like that.
No. So that happened. I mean, there were tweets by people within the organization just voicing their displeasure over Myles Garrett getting suspended, and it was a lot of people had a lot to say, and it all kind of just came out, and what that kind of told me and what it told a lot of other people was that the locker room there is just not really I don't know, it's a weird place. I don't want to say it's in total disarray like a lot of people are, but it's weird because the people who were hot-headed at the beginning of the season, like Baker Mayfield and not really OBJ, he's had his composure pretty much the whole time. He got some heat at the beginning of the season for wearing weird watches and shit. And that was kind of like the...
watches, visors, and shoes that are all just illegal or whatever.
And that was kind of weird, and he complained about that, but now it's like, oh, man. Now it's all these other weird dudes like Myles Garrett, who, seemed like a nice guy, but apparently he wants to kill a man.
Jermaine Whitehead also wanted to kill someone.
Yeah, that one too. That was the other one. It's like, what?
People quick to forget about that one.
Calling, asking this guy to fight at the Browns practice facility. And it was, I told you the Demarius Randall hit on Deontay Thomas.
Wait, when was that?
It was you can look it up, I guess, but it was, he had this like long ball, this fade from Mason Rudolph and Deontay Johnson. It's not Deontay Thomas. Deontay Johnson. He was looking back at it, and he had the corner of the DB on him, and he just overthrew the ball, so he didn't even... I don't even think he was going to, go up and get it. But he didn't turn his head around, and Demarius Randall just, knocked his block off, like, helmet to helmet.
No.
He was coming in from the lateral angle, so he didn't even turn. By the time he turned his helmet around, he was slamming into him like a torpedo and knocked him out of the game.
So in that same game, this is where you're saying it was chippy leading up. This was kind of the boiling point, and it was all simmering under the surface up until this time.
Yeah, and then Demarius Randall was ejected. Yep. So, I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff happening, and it was chippy, but, don't really think that the events should have led to a, full-on assault, battery.
No. that was the tweet from Adam Schefter, just one word: assault.
Assault.
Yeah, but I don't know. Whatever. Baker. I like his post game on field interview where he's just like, is pretty kind of calm and collected. He's like, can't really be doing that. He's one of our best players. We're not playing that great right now, so we kind of can't afford to have good players like that missing time. So no place for it. And he's right. Don't disagree with any of it. But some people were quick to point out is that I think this is kind of getting back to the locker room being an interesting place in Cleveland. What are you supposed to say there? Is it, people in the locker room going to be like, oh, you got to defend our guy, or I don't really know. I think it's probably the right thing to do. If anything, it's a self-preservationist attitude, because if you say like, oh, it's not that bad, which even though it obviously was, it kind of in a way opens you up to get beaten with your own helmet next week or next time you play against the Steelers.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I'm sure that's kind of where some of this problem, some of these problems, I guess, lie, with people posting tweets after defending the guy, because I'm sure that Myles Garrett has friends there. So you're trying to attempt with everybody crucifying him. You'd imagine some people are trying to back him up, but it's just such an egregious act that it's like I don't even know how to defend this, but I don't want to throw my buddy under the bus, so I don't know if in the wake of that the fallout from it, that some people posted some things that they probably shouldn't have, what the situation was. But it's a weird situation. You're right, where it's like, I'm sure some people are like, fuck that. I'm not getting fined. But obviously as a guy who is a crucial part of that defense, you think about what exactly some people are trying to go through. But Anyway, yeah, kind of a weird black mark in football this week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, question though, just so moving forward here. So he's done with the NFL for a good little bit here. XFL, has he got a place there?
I don't know. I'll I'll believe the XFL is a real thing when it comes around.
If they last more than one season.
Yeah.
Well, let's after the AAF's thing, how about get through a season?
Yeah, I mean that's really the thing is with that it was all fun and great and everything, but it fell apart so quickly that it was like, man, I don't like. It was kind of funny to care about in like an ironic sense, but I mean, I don't know. Even in an ironic sense, it was kind of like paying attention to what's going on with the Arizona Hotshots. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Man, did I don't remember if you talked about this on the show, but there was like an article that came out from ESPN a couple months back that just kind of chronicled the whole leading up to and the total collapse of the AAF. And it was just like, man, why did they think this was ever going to work? It's just like, yeah, we got no money. We'll figure it out as we go. Oh, okay. And then they got that Carolina, the Carolina Hurricanes or whatever, that the NHL owner got involved. And he's just like, yeah, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny you bring that up because in sort of a related sense, so our Josh was talking to me when we rented out this music studio space, and he was like, man, I feel like nobody in this area actually understands how to run a business like this. Like, he's like, so some of these places offer options like underneath, like they rent out like commercial leases for like offices. So that makes sense. And then they rent out music studios in like the basement of these buildings so that they don't interfere with like the general office space stuff. It's like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. Just like put hours on the music studio space, I guess, so you don't like bother those people. And he's like, but they only offer year-long leases, and it's like, now wait a minute, this just doesn't really seem like a very good idea because the only people who'd be going after these are people who are like, yeah, we're gonna definitely rehearse for years to come. Which, who can even say that? Yeah,
like the time horizon on a musical project, I think a year minimum is like, that's too long.
Yeah, like, no. I don't, like, even Josh and I were talking about it. It's like, even you and me, like, we've known each other for years, and I don't mind going in on this with you, but, like, I mean, if you, like, move away or something, it's like, well, we're both just fucking stuck paying for this space. So, like, that was one of the big buildings that was, I guess, pretty popular. And then this one that we ended up renting from, I mean, this guy just, like, he's, like, going through these spaces. He's like, yeah, sorry about the mess in all these places. I'm trying to fix some of these up, but I'm leasing to this shipping company in the other half of the building. So some of these, it's, we're trying to just put together. It's like, oh, all right, well, whatever. It's apparently, it sounds like you just got control in the last, I don't know, however many months or whatever, but it sounds recent. Like, you just got these buildings under your ownership. And so we're like, oh, well, how long have you owned these? He's like, oh, I've been the owner for about 12 months, about a year. And I was like, oh, okay. That seems like a long time, but whatever. So we went and looked at some of these rooms. The one that he was planning on leasing to us, it was like, all right, well, nothing special, but carpet in there, and plenty of space. We were like, where's the light? He's like, oh, it doesn't have a light switch in here. There's no lights. Like, well, so we were like, well, we need a light.
What do you mean there's no light?
Yeah, and so he's like, oh, okay, well, I'm definitely working on that. And so I was like, oh, all right, well.
You supposed to just put lamps in there?
Oh, so yeah, I can put a standing lamp in there, and it was like, nope, probably put a real light in there. So he's doing that. He's working on that. He's like, oh, I'll get it installed, this weekend. So he did. But he showed us a room in the basement, and he was like, you guys can take one of these rooms. And he opened up the door, and it was just this totally ripped apart room that, like, the floor was not a floor, really. It was like pieces of wood, not really connected together. And so we were like, absolutely not. I'm not paying any money to, like, live in this room that looks like you're renovating a basement in. Like, it was
I'm imagining like that chunk of the Murd house in the basement behind that wall.
It was pretty much. It was pretty much like that. Like,
where all the paint and air filters and light bulbs were stored.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. It was like, oh, somebody just moved out of here, and it's like, all right, Doug. Well, we're not moving in here. Certainly, I don't know who would, because the floor is half gone.
So not really doing a good job selling you on the space, huh?
No, but
not exactly putting his best foot forward.
Not exactly. And so Josh and I were talking about this, and so this is a better part of this. He takes his copy of the lease, and we were like, so, Josh is like, can we do like a month-to-month lease? Like, is that cool with you? And he's like, oh, absolutely. He's like, all right, how much advance do we need to let you know that we're done? He's like, I prefer 30 days. And he was like, well, that's great. That works. And so he takes the lease, his copy, and just crosses out like year or whatever and just writes month to month. And then does the same on my copy. And so we're like, okay.
That's the kind of stuff I joke about doing at work. Like, we found this project where we're doing this thing down in Texas. There's a bunch of like just boilerplate stuff we got to do for some permitting stuff, and it's like, man, we found this nice example. Can I just I just printed off a copy and just went over to my other coworker and just like, hey, I'm just gonna cross off this other company's logo with my red pen and write Via Rail on top of it. There, done.
It's ours now. Yeah, that happened.
Legally binding, huh?
Apparently. Well, I mean, the whole thing so it was that, and he didn't make us pay a security deposit. So
nice.
We were like, okay, well, sure. So that kind of means that we can just pay you when we pay you, and if we don't, then we don't.
You could just, I don't really feel like it, and just kind of disappear.
Pretty much. Like, as long as I, get all my shit out of there, it'd pretty much just be like, yep, see you later. And I wouldn't tell him, and he'd just be done. Yeah, so that was kind of weird. And Josh was like, man. So anyway, tying this all back, he was like, man, if you're ever bored in 5 to 10 years and want to run a music studio rental company, I think we could do it, and a lot better. Yeah. And so this all reminded me, because it's like, you look at some of these things and you just kind of assume that those people know what they're doing with their line of business. But once you get past the surface image, or even not even past the surface image, you can pretty quickly find out that, hey, as it turns out, the person on this business venture has no idea what they're doing. And I, as a person who has very little experience in any business ventures, I think that I could do a bit of a better job here.
See, that's really interesting. I don't remember who I was talking to about this. It might have been you at one point a little while back, but man, another form of income would be a landlord. It's like, oh, that sounds like a lot, just pain in the ass. But it's like, man, okay, just renting these little studios like this that are non-residential. Yeah, I think I could figure it the fuck out and probably do better than this cat.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a pain in the ass to deal with the music, the populace. Just I have the privilege of having a lot of friends in the music community that I trust and am pretty, pretty responsible people. I'd like to think the people that I'm associated with, but I'm well aware that there's probably a larger part of the pie of people who maybe aren't quite as responsible, and trying to hearing Josh talk about some of his band buddies that he'd, like, all right, guys, we got to pay rent on the studio space. And he's like, and there's this one guy who just like wouldn't pay him for like months. And it's like, man, so I can front for you, my dude, but it'd be really nice if you just paid me on time. He's like, oh, sorry, man. I just like don't have the cash. It's like, what do you mean you don't have the cash?
Well, it's not entirely different than when, like living with a bunch of dudes and it's like, hey, I paid MG&E this month. Can y'all throw me that $30 or whatever it is? And then 4 months later, hey, Cordell.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's exactly that. I mean, it's totally that.
Yeah, I know. It's the same fucking thing. But,
here, write me a check for $400 because you didn't pay
utilities for the last
all year.
9 months.
Whoops.
Turn off the heat in your room.
Man, that'd be funny. Go into his room, turn off that little the radiator. You don't get to turn this on. I take the handle off,
and then go down into the breaker box and just flip off his circuits. You get no electricity either, buddy.
Thanks. So anyway, moving on here.
So just back to Myles Garrett here. The other thing, just after watching that and hearing some of the comparisons to other noteworthy scuffles in sports history, I just got a quick little timeline. We can go down memory lane real quick. First one from the NHL. There's a lot of fights in hockey, but the most notable one I think that I know of is Mike Milbury in 1979 climbing into the stands and beating a fan with his own shoe.
A classic.
And then of course the one that actually draws a really nice comparison is Malice at the Palace, which is appropriately enough turning 15 in a couple days. 15 years ago. It was a similar situation when the game was over. The Pacers were up in that one, like by 15.
Yeah.
Or something with like 30 seconds left, and there's the hard foul, and then, yeah, you know the rest. Ron Artest climbing in the stands, beating someone, and fans coming on the court and dumping beer and popcorn and throwing stuff at all the players as they're leaving. It was, that's an ugly one.
A real mess.
Fun fact, though, Tim Donaghy was the referee in that game.
Huh.
Remember him?
Yeah, I do.
Gambling man.
That's right. Kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah. So anyway, next one I got down here, 2006, FIU versus Miami. This is a huge brawl. This one actually does feature the Myles Garrett move, or there was a player from, I believe, FIU who took his helmet and swung and hit someone in the head with it.
Whoopsies.
So another example of using the helmet as a weapon. So that's a fun one. I like the Memphis BYU one. This is from the Miami Beach Bowl a couple years ago in 2014. This one most notably there's a BYU player who kind of sucker punched a Memphis player from behind. So that wasn't a good look for him. A lot of other kicking and fighting and punching. So another fun one. And then some of the more recent notable ones here from the NFL. One I didn't have on here. Who was that player? It was the Jaguars. Was it against the Seahawks a couple years back? Where the Jaguars player got ejected and tried climbing into the stands to try and fight somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Or no, it was a Seahawks player.
It was, what was his name?
I don't know. It was defensive lineman.
Yeah.
But he tried going in the stands and unfortunately didn't get up there.
Yeah, very fortunately. Big man.
Yeah. So that's that one. You got OBJ versus Josh Norman. That's a well-documented one. One of the better ones, Andre Johnson versus Cortland Finnegan.
Oh, man. That one is a fight video that I find myself going back to every now and then just because Andre Johnson totally suns Cortland Finnegan, just positively, like, lays him out. And it's so extremely decided. And, like, I don't know. There was something about it that's satisfying to watch. I mean, punching somebody with their helmet on is like a stupid thing. But
he got his helmet off in that one.
Oh, he does?
I think so. Well, or maybe it's not one or both of their helmets come off.
I know that their helmets are off at some point, but I thought when he punched him, his helmet was on still. Maybe not though. Anyway, yeah, he just lands like a couple of good haymakers in that one, and it's like the what was it, the Odor Bautista punch?
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that one up because I didn't have any baseball ones on here, but yeah, that was just whew.
Yeah, like
he landed that one.
Yeah, man, and it's like no question about it. Because there's so many instances of people throwing punches, but just like whiff on it. Because I mean, nobody out there is a professional boxer. They're all out there to play football. So you throw a punch, and it's like yikes.
Yeah,
makes you look like not an athlete out there. So maybe don't do that.
No, and that Odor one, Batista one was cool too because Odor threw a hell of a punch. It looked like. But Bautista ate it or took it real well.
Yeah, man.
He didn't go down. He kind of just ate the punch and stayed on his feet.
Yep, and then all the people came out. And
then it turned into a baseball fight where it was just everyone standing around pushing.
Yeah.
Last one.
This was so funny.
Probably my favorite one on the list. Yeah, Antonio Brown on the punt return, jumping up and crane kicking Spencer Lanning, the punter for the Browns.
Yeah, man. So did you put this on because of his tweet?
No, what did he tweet?
Oh, man. This is even better. So AB tweeted the next day, "This one's for you, Mason," and he had a screenshot of him kicking the punter in the face from that kickoff return.
It'd be better if he would have photoshopped Myles Garrett in that instead of just the original picture or something.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was hilarious that it was like, man, there goes that man again. Tweeting things that he probably shouldn't be tweeting, but it was really funny. And aside from his normal everyday pretty crazy stuff that he tweets or says or whatever, this one was pretty good on its own. This one's for you, Mason. Photo of him absolutely cleating this punter.
It's like my what I have in mind is if we would have done the Photoshop route, something like last year after the Saints no call against the Rams in that playoff game. Yeah. Hulk Hogan. He tweeted a Photoshop of him Hulk slamming whichever receiver it was that got interfered with on that one, just no flag, brother.
Yeah.
Very good, Hulk. Thank you.
Thank you for that contribution.
Good content. Yeah. So yeah, sound off in the comments below any of your favorite sports fights that we missed. I know we're leaving out a bunch.
Yeah, feel free. Send a bunch. Moving on, we got the Astros here. Well, do you want to talk about fantasy at the end, or do you want to jump around here?
It doesn't matter. We can just do this Astros things quick because I'm not a real baseball guy. But this is just interesting that we don't talk any fucking baseball on here. But man, the Astros got caught red-handed cheating.
Yeah, and I don't really know what so before we get into it, I don't even know. So it came out, but I mean, I don't know. Have you heard anything about if there's going to be punishments for it, or?
I heard the MLB is going to be doing an investigation.
Okay.
So I would think there's going to be a punishment eventually.
Okay. Well,
to be determined.
Anyway.
But the John Boy breakdown was pretty damning. Where anytime there's an off-speed pitch, they would bang on a trash can or something and make a lot of noise for their batter. And there's the only way they could have been possibly doing that as in real time was to be using a camera or something in the outfield and then signaling that back to somebody else. Some sort of army communication stuff. But
yeah, I mean,
can't do that.
No, you can't. And I mean, it's like you said, the breakdown was pretty clear and evident that there's no way that you would be able to take the signs without having a camera actually looking at them, which, I mean, it's pretty funny that this came out when it did because of the Tampa Bay Rays, their pitcher tipping pitches. and them catching on to what he was doing. It's interesting because these are like, I mean, it's almost like the, where you can tell where you cross the line in this situation. Like on one hand, like, yeah, you see what he's doing with his glove, and you found a little hack there, and that's funny. Like it's not funny for the pitcher, but it's a little instance where it's like, okay, you figured out this like really, this awesome. I don't know how else to describe it besides
it's a tell. Yeah, it's a tell. It's the same thing if he's doing something funny with his glove before he's going to throw a curveball or whatever. Same thing as, the receiver's getting the ball thrown to him because he is, every time he gets up the line, when the ball's going his way, he just like tightens his gloves up or something.
Yeah, and so you have this really excellent stroke of luck, and you take advantage of it. But this, it's like, yeah, I mean, that's straight up cheating. Like you're using technology. You're not trying to figure out what this person's doing. And I mean, I told you about this, but it was hilarious that the pitcher caught on. Like after it was like,
Yeah, like, oh yeah, they had the meeting at the mound. Like, hey, we got to switch our signs up because they fucking know what we're doing.
Yeah. And I think it's ironic that the Astros ended up losing that particular game. But I mean, yeah, it's like, how do you, like, how many other games were they doing this for? How many other pitchers? Thankfully, his pitcher caught on, and he was like, man, that shit's pretty egregious. Like, that's, it'd be really funny, like, being in the mind of that guy where he's like, he calls the pitch and, winds up for it, and he hears that banging. Like, you got to think that, he's, something in the back of his head is like, okay, that noise is there again. Every time.
I'm throwing a changeup again, too.
Right, that's right. Like, it's interesting that somebody who's like super dialed in to what's happening, it's like he caught on pretty quickly and, didn't pitch like an entire inning like that.
Yeah, and then a very similar thing happened in the World Series even. There was whichever game it was where the Astros got on the Nationals pitcher in that first inning, and then he said after the game, like, yeah, I realized I was tipping my pitches, and so I just started shaking the glove before every pitch, so they didn't know what I was throwing. So which is fine. That's fine that they were jumping on that. If he had the pitcher had a tell like that, but yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Everyone's gonna be doing their detective work to go back and watch every Astros game for the last 2 years and see what's up.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Way to stay relevant, baseball.
Yeah. Right.
Spygate. So yeah, they're gonna lose a first-round draft pick or whatever, or whatever they did to the Patriots during Spygate, which is
What's the precedent here?
That I mean, really, that it's almost a 1-to-1, analogy or 1-to-1 relationship. It would seem. I think. I don't know. Maybe
vacate
not.
The wins.
There you go. Man, I was listening to a little bit of this college basketball podcast, listening to some of the stuff over the off season, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, Kansas under investigation for something, for taking money from Nike or whatever." So it's like, man, they might be the first school to win a national championship and lose it in the same year.
Whoopsies.
But it's like all this, and they're just like, yeah, all these wins being vacated. Who fucking cares?
Is it a real punishment? Not really. I mean, you can't display it in your collegiate Hall of Fame room, I suppose, and you can't hang a banner, maybe. I don't even know what's that stopping you. Like, I don't even know if you can not do that.
Well, apparently, Louis, you're not allowed to hang a banner in like your practice facility, but Louisville just does it anyway from their 2013 one.
Yeah, like
what are you gonna do? Vacate more wins?
Take that down. The NCAA man is gonna come and.
Actually, there's the guy in that show that threw out a good theory that and I'm gonna steal it for my own, so I'm not crediting the source. Good suggestion. So okay, like, well, don't vacate wins, but what we can do instead of putting a program, banning them from postseason play that next seat or that right away, put like stag or delay it by 3 months, or not 3 months, 3 years or something, 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And then just so all the players that are there, they're not really affected by it, or It's anybody that's getting recruited then was like they know what they're getting into.
Makes sense.
So
it's probably a more pragmatic approach.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's the NCAA. So
yeah. Anyway, moving on from baseball, Packers Defesnes is okay.
Yeah, you get it. We were chit-chatting about this last week before ahead of the Panthers game. There's a game going into it where on paper you're looking at it like, man, Christian McCaffrey's going to run for like 500 yards because the Packers' run defense is not very good. And we saw the same thing kind of happen. We had the same thought going into the Dallas game earlier this year where, Zeke's going to run for 1,000,000 yards. And it just didn't really happen. And It was kind of the same deal this past week where it didn't quite, they just didn't run for a lot of yards. Again, it was a similar situation where the game script definitely helped being up the majority of that game, both games for the Packers. But the ultimate, it all came down to, wouldn't you guess it, goal line stand at the 1 yard line, and you need to get a stop and run the ball, and the Packers get a stop. So
yeah,
they're not great, but they're okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it's disappointing to see what looked like a really staunch secondary has sort of fallen by the wayside a little bit this year. I'll
give them a pass. Okay, for this Panthers game because it was snowing.
Yeah.
Because when you get a slick field out there, like I understand that it is. You make a schematic adjustment to play just soft coverage just to not get beat deep. Like that's a lot of what we saw on that last drive was just them running a 10 or 12 yard hitch or working back to the ball. And like I get that, like why we'll give you that just because if you not wanting to bite on a double move, because you bite on a double move, slip and fall, shit.
Right, that's it.
That's
game
easy
over.
Touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah, so I understand that, but just through the course of the last couple games, it's kind of looked. I mean, granted, it's tough because we've played some tough people these last couple of games. DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel are certainly whatever receivers. They're both pretty good. I guess I'd like to see it stymied a little bit more just because it's Kyle Allen. Like Kyle Allen's fine, but he's not like an all-pro quarterback back there. But I don't know. Like you said, it might have been because of the soft coverage there at the end of the game, which kind of led to bolstering that or padding that stat line a little bit. Chargers game was an ugly one. Just kind of, it wasn't really a receiver problem, but the checkdowns in the flat to Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, it was a problem that we definitely saw in the Kansas City game that preceded it with LaShawn McCoy and Damian Williams. Josh Jacobs also, he didn't really do that a whole lot in that decided game, the 42-24 one, and I don't really know what you can draw from that anyway because that was so lopsided. But I don't know. Looking at this schedule, I guess it just makes me a little bit scared for this San Francisco game. George Kittle may or may not play, and we kind of held Emmanuel Sanders at bay the other time with his other team that he played us with earlier in the season. But, I don't know. I guess it's just something that I'm paying attention to when we're going up against these teams that have higher echelon receivers. We have a pretty soft schedule for rest of the season here comparatively with the rest of the NFL. But, still never like going up against the likes of people like Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. Kenny Golladay is a scary man. Allen Robinson suns us sometimes. So I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be a fun end of the year with those 3 straight division games to finish the season. Very easily could come down to that Week 16 matchup against Minnesota. That Monday night game being effectively for the division. That'd be kind of fun. That Niners game next week will be fun too, because that'll be winner leaves that game with the top seed in the NFC.
Yeah, with New Orleans surprisingly losing the other week. It was really the top 3, I think, in the NFC were San Francisco, Packers, and the Saints. And the Saints are still up there, but them falling to the Falcons certainly helped the Packers bid for a first-round bye, given they perform well for the second half of the season.
Yeah. Which, you got to figure at least a couple more wins. This is kind of a dangerous game to play, but whatever, doesn't matter. You got to figure for sure, like, well, you got Redskins, that's a win. You got the Bears, that should be a win. Lions should win.
Giants.
Oh, Giants. Okay, yeah, you can get to 12 wins, at least 11 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's I'll knock on wood anyway because of what we did with the Badgers. It's I think appropriate to say that our schedule moving forward it looks a lot better than it looked perhaps at the beginning of the season, because of how our division's kind of shaken out here. The Lions losing Kerryon Johnson has been a huge blow to their offense, and Matt Stafford having fractures in his back makes Jeff Driscoll out there look not quite as menacing either, along with his receiving core. Mitchell Trubisky regressing. That Week 1 matchup when we played them was, looking at it now, in a completely different light. I mean, considering how we acted about, like, preceding that matchup, where we were like, oh my God, this is going to be a tough one. And it was a tough one, but looking back on it, it's like, well,
the Bears are really bad on offense.
Yeah.
That's all that was. We got a Aaron Rodgers saying, "Oh, we got a defense after that game." Well, no.
Well,
let's not get too crazy here.
We have a defense, but
it's there.
And the Minnesota Vikings have been surging back as of late, but without Adam Thielen, they fell to the Chiefs. They pulled one off against the Cowboys the other week, but not having Adam Thielen is hurting them on the offensive side of things. Certainly things look a lot more positive than they did earlier. And the Packers rolling into the bye 8-2 is, excellent. Mission
accomplished. You can't didn't expect anything better than that.
Nope. I don't know. Both the losses, it was kind of weird how both of them happened. Like the Chargers one it seemed like everybody was playing in a weird funk, considering that the week before we played against the Chiefs and it was a very tight game and didn't really feel like there was anything coming out of that game which would have been like, oh shit, we need to work on this, or oh man, we really can't stop the run, or we're having a lot of trouble with this.
The fun stat I heard about that Chargers game, Packers are in like the last 8 years something like 1-7 in games the weekend of daylight savings.
What the fuck?
So
weird stat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just kind of odd.
Yeah, that is weird.
So just something to put in file away and put in the tickler file for next year, when that rolls around, just to have your wits about you.
I don't know. I don't really want to talk anymore about the Packers for fear of jinxing what's going to happen there.
Yeah. And you mentioned the Badgers. We'll just do quick college football real quick. Badgers won today, beat Nebraska. Minnesota loses to Iowa. So the door's open for the Badgers to go get their ass kicked in Indianapolis again to Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, it is great that they lost, but you're right. I mean, it's like
At what
everybody's
cost?
very happy about it, but having just the opportunity, I guess, to get your ass handed to you, it's like, I don't know if we want that.
I mean, you could. Here, how about this, Minnesota? You can keep the axe, but you have to go to the Big Ten championship game. Call it even.
And die.
You can. You go get embarrassed this time.
Yeah. So
here's your 59 points, Ohio State, and thank you for playing.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And
the other big story today, Tua got hurt again, and he broke his hip or something. So that sucks. And then there are some people throwing around the Bo Jackson comparison.
Bad comparison.
It's like, well, I hope that's not what happened.
Well, it's not a good comparison because the whole season, and well, first of all, Bo Jackson did this 30 years ago, so things have certainly advanced in the medical community. But also the career-ending portion of his injury was because he did not receive treatment for it, which developed into another condition that I don't remember the name of, but that condition is what was career-ending, not necessarily the broken hip in and of itself. So there's still hope, I think, for his career. He's done for the rest of the season with Alabama, so that's unfortunate, but...
well, okay. Well, that makes me feel better because I was gonna be sad if he wasn't ever gonna be able to play anymore.
I think it's a tough injury to still come back from because your hip just does everything for your body. So it was obviously extremely painful to just dislocate it. And I think that it will still. I mean, with the way Joe Burrow is playing, it'll certainly raise questions with whoever has the number one pick is going to choose. But yeah, I don't know. It throws a big old wrench into the whole draft for 2020. But
could you imagine I'm the Bengals scouting department just like looking up in the sky and wondering why we're finally bad. We're like really bad this year finally to get that number one quarterback, and this happens. And the guy we wanted has an injury. Red flag.
Man, fuck the Bengals. I don't want them to win. We can segue into fantasy right now.
All right, let's go fantasy. Yep.
Because with the Bengals, so today I made the decision finally to drop AJ Green. I had been holding him for a number of weeks because I saw that Brian dropped him for somebody, and so I was like, oh man, money in the bank. and
here we are, no money to speak of. Taking up the Le'Veon Bell Memorial roster spot on your fantasy team.
It was extremely ironic that he did, in fact, do that to me this season because this will be the third year in a row that I've had a memorial spot for somebody.
Who'd you have the year 2 years ago?
David Johnson.
Oh. Whoops.
Rip in peace. Yeah, so yucky. But the Bengals, man, it was like the fact that it took them, and the Joe Mixon thing pissed me off a lot too. Like when they were siphoning carries off through the whole season between him and Gio Bernard, and it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Why are you giving Giovanni Bernard any carries at all? Why even like two? Like it was so aggravating to see the stat line of like, you know, Joe Mixon 12 carries, Giovanni Bernard 6, and it's like, fuck off. What are you doing? That and benching Andy Dalton, not trading AJ Green. I don't know, just like the whole like the accidental tank just looks so much worse for some reason to me than the full-on commit to the tank that the Dolphins did and that they apparently are not succeeding at it anymore. And it's kind of funny because it was like, oh, it's ironic because they were tanking for Tua and now he has a broken hip, and now they're kind of in a position where it's like, oh, well, don't really need to take Tua number one because we don't have the number one pick anymore. So
Well, and if we could, run it back. We got Trevor Lawrence coming down the pipeline soon.
yeah, and I mean, there's Chase Young's in the draft, so we need an edge guy. We have all these other draft picks, so we build everything else, and then run it back next year. We'll put Josh Rosen under center again and have him, do his thing for another year of his rookie deal.
Yeah, we'll get
Until we
him,
can
and
get
then we'll
another
sign. We'll sign Jameis.
Yeah, fuck.
So, yeah, no, they're gonna sit there at like the number 3 pick, and then the Dolphins are gonna say, nah, we're good. We're gonna trade back. Give me all the 2021 picks. I know we have like a lot of 2021s, but let's just delay this another year. We can wait.
Okay, I gotta kind of wrap things up here, but I'll just run down fantasy real quick. So last week, what do we have here? I don't know.
I lost.
Yeah, Sam lost. It was a painful one too, because you had Tyler Lockett going into that last game, and you were down only like a few points, and he had Jason Myers.
Yeah.
And so
yeah,
that was a sad one to see. I'm
still within shouting distance of the playoff position.
Yeah,
even
in our league, it's funny because all the people who are out of the playoffs are very much in contention to grab the last spot.
When do the playoffs start?
They start in They start week 14.
Oh, okay. I got time.
Yeah. So all 4 of the people who are out are all 3-7. And the next person, the person at that 6th seed, is 4-6, and the person above that is 5-5. So, I mean, at the most, you're got to overcome that 2-game deficit. At the minimum, you got this other guy who's ahead of you by a game. So you've got more points scored than Calvin, who's sitting at 5-5. So given a tiebreaker,
well, not by much though. I only have 2 more points than him.
That's correct.
And that's the only person that I'm ahead of, I think. Yep.
Yep.
I am in 9th place in scoring. Great.
Yeah. So things have the landscape has changed in the last couple of weeks here. I mean, it's pretty funny that Sam's squad all of a sudden doesn't look like the worst roster ever in this league. Like, there are a few other people, not a few maybe, but Cheech is a person whose roster I don't like his roster at all. He's performing pretty okay, but I don't like that Nick Chubb is not succeeding, and Kareem Hunt. I like that Kareem Hunt is doing things, but Nick Chubb is seeing some of his work siphoned away. And he's got Brian Hill starting. He won the sweepstakes on that, but he's starting Curtis Samuel up there. But I mean, his bench, it's like Josh Gordon, lottery ticket. George Kittle's hurt. Jacob Hollister. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So, I like my roster better than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, my roster's gotten very kinky because I got a lot of handcuffs sitting on my bench. I just picked up Jay Ajayi since he just got signed back to the Eagles.
Yeah, and I'm just JJ sweepstakes.
I'm just kind of holding on to Alex Madison from Minnesota just in case.
Yeah. And, I mean, your regular roster looks fine as is, too. I mean, Pat Mahomes, Kenyon Drake is ahead of David Johnson on the depth chart this week.
Here, I was reading about this. Like, apparently, David Montgomery's questionable to play this week. Like, man, do I play Tariq Cohen if he's out?
Ooh.
Playing the Rams?
I mean, I don't know, man, because you're playing Sammy Watkins and Mike Williams in that shootout with KC Los Angeles. So
yeah, I really want to play Mike Williams because he doesn't have a touchdown this year yet, and I don't understand that. I just the gambler in me says he's due for one.
That's what all the fantasy guys that I listen to say as well. They keep saying touchdown regression when they reference him.
Okay, that's a better phrase. Yeah, it's mind blowing that he has all this, like his snap percentage is like over 90% like every game this year almost.
Actually, what I would do, I think, if he doesn't play, is I would shift one of those guys up into your wide receiver thing, because Emmanuel Sanders is playing against Arizona. They ruled him in. So I don't think Deebo Samuel is going to get quite as much work as he did last week.
Well, it's either him or Devontae Parker. And I think Deebo's
Devontae Parker? Oh, no! Oh, man. I don't know about playing him against the Bills.
Oh, it is against the Bills. Yeah, shit. I mean, he's been consistent. He's not been great this year, but he's been consistent for the most part.
He's actually, it just doesn't feel right. Yeah, he's another hot topic on the fantasy podcast because he's burned a lot of people in the past for being terrible, but he's been putting up solid wide receiver 3 numbers. So it's one of those situations where there's nobody left there but him. So he's getting
somebody's got to catch a
volume.
ball from whoever's playing quarterback.
Yeah.
So man, yeah, this is kind of interesting here. Yeah, just with Devontae and Tyler Lockett both being on buys, it's kind of reaching to the bottom of my wide receiver barrel, which isn't terrible.
Yeah,
I wouldn't feel terrible about this, but yeah, if David Montgomery doesn't play, Tariq Cohen I think is rosterable then. Yep, playable.
Absolutely.
So, I guess I'll just keep an eye on that tomorrow morning. What do you got this week?
I'm playing Brian.
I'm playing Finch, and he had James Conner play Thursday night, and he only put up 2 points. So that's a good help. That's a good start for me.
I'm playing Brian, and I don't know. I hate this win percentage thing because I feel very uneasy about this matchup.
I think this Chargers stack he's got at running back is hilarious.
Yeah, I do too. It works though, man. It puts
Austin
up points.
Eckler and Melvin Gordon, like I guess.
It works. It doesn't not work. They both get double-digit points usually.
Well, okay, he's flexing Alvin Kamara, so whatever.
Yeah, I mean, right, against Tampa Bay too.
That's
hopefully
30 points.
They're very good against the run this year. Tampa Bay.
He's gonna catch passes though.
We'll see. But what I was gonna say is that I feel really bad because I traded him DJ Moore, and immediately DJ Moore puts up like a 20 point performance, and so I'm like, whatever, I don't know. I traded him for Chark, and I did not look at the next game that DJ Moore had on the schedule, and I was like, fuck, he plays Atlanta.
Oh.
He's gonna go for 1 billion points, and so I'm like, God damn it. But I don't know. We'll see. I got some shooters out there. Next week, I'm really worried about because I'm in bye week hell next week. The Chiefs have a bye, and the Chargers have a bye.
Oh, the Chiefs have a bye next week?
Yep.
Ah, shit.
Yeah, you're probably in trouble too, mister.
Fuck, I shouldn't have dropped Jimmy G then.
Oopsies. Probably pick him back up.
Did someone pick him back up? I don't know.
I don't think so. Not yet. But he's probably still clearing waivers. But anyway, yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I guess I didn't say I made the tough call to drop AJ Green, but that's because Calvin did a Calvin thing and he dropped Devonta Freeman. And so I snagged him because he's going to he may or may not be effective down the stretch, but if I can get him rostered for his rematch with Carolina in week 14, which would, given I don't have a bye that week, I think he'd be a great asset for first round of playoffs playing in. But anyway, I have to go. So got to cut this short a little bit, but
yeah, hour 15 minutes. We're cutting a real brief one today.
Yeah. Anyway, follow us, subscribe, do everything. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.